being an igniting factor in this particular spate of violence. Apparently, from the sources on the ground, there were two opposing sides in the distribution of resources by the deputy president, and how the police mentioned it, this is what caused the issues. What's your take on the politics of donations?
Jesse,
Yeah?
William Ruto has had over 130 rallies in a month, and this issue has not occurred anywhere else except in Kisumu. There were allegations, and we saw that from the statement that came from the police, saying that they had even warned William Ruto in terms of that they suspect there's going to be chaos, and so he should not go to that particular place. By the time intelligence is trickling down to the police just to even warn you and say that there's going to be, chaos, the intelligence didn't just come that there's going to be chaos. They particularly knew where the chaos were coming from and who the organizers were. So if that statement that the police are claiming is actually true, that they did warn William Ruto because they already got the information beforehand that there's going to be chaos, one of the things that we should demand at this point is also they should tell us who was responsible for those chaos, because you're not going to get intelligence that there's going to be chaos without getting the perpetrators or the organizers of the chaos. That's one thing. There was allegation that money was given beforehand to go and mobilize crowd. I mean, really, that is such a false statement. How much money will you need to mobilize the crowds that you have seen William Ruto pulling? How much money? Even if you're going to give 10 shillings to each of those, it's impossible. No money is given before a rally. And Jesse, you can take this from me because I'm involved in those kind of organizations. No money is given to mobilize crowds. No money is sent prior hand to do logistics. Nothing like that exists. So actually, that statement that came from the police is false. And we should, expect more from our police and, demand even for an apology, because that was a false statement. When it comes to the question that you've asked me in terms of politics of donation, politics of donation has always been there. As a matter of fact, I just stated that William Ruto has gone to over 130 rallies in the past month. And we have not had any problems with any of these other regions. So when I hear people saying that, this was stage managed, by who? We have no interest. We literally are sometimes, when we are organizing those rallies, thinking maybe we should not stop in that market because the people will be too many and we will distract, the business of the day. So we have no interest to start organizing chaos. I mean, for what benefit, It's just simply, my take on what happened in Kisumu is simple. There has been a culture of divisive politics, of violence, of ethnic antagonism, and actually that one we acknowledged. In fact, it is the reason why Raila Odinga was sat down and they did the handshake, because we were told that we have to sit Raila Odinga down so that we understand he commands a huge force, people in Luo Nyanza, okay, and we cannot just ignore the fact that he actually is an influential person.
All right.
But that side of the political divide they know the only thing we have seen repeatedly, and these are facts, is the politics of violence. And unfortunately, as much as their leader purports to have changed through the handshake and through the pushing of the Building Bridges initiative, unfortunately, he then needs to go and convince his people that, listen, guys, we are in 2021. We are no longer using violence for political interest.
Okay.
And these people are stuck. And you can't put a blanket statement and say that now all Luos are stone throwers. That is not true, because it is the same region where we had successful rallies. It's still in Kisumu and Luo Nyanza, where William Ruto attracted huge crowds, and those were still Luos. They were not throwing stones. They were listening to what you were selling to them. So you also cannot say that, Luos are stone throwers or this and that. What it is that there are few people who are still stuck with that politics of violence.
Okay.
And their leader needs to talk to them and tell them, listen, handshake came, we moved on from that, we were pushing for Building Bridges initiative. If we want to show that this initiative was truly genuine, then we have to stop throwing stones.
All right.
That's just what it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Thanks for painting it in black and white. And you, of course, opened up a bigger can of worms in terms of the police and the role they're playing in cases of violence. And Gloria, just to reel you in, there was a case of violence in Keno during his visit in Muranga. That's the deputy president. But be that as it may, Kasim Tandaza, when we're talking about the police and where you sit, have they done their role in the cases of violence we've witnessed during the campaign trails? And focus on Kondele. Should the police have quelled the violence and made it safer for the DP to address the residents at Kondele roundabout, or issuing a warning to the DP's team is simply enough? What's your take on that? And are the police truly a neutral player?
Well, this is a very unfortunate incident. And it is also unfortunate from where I said that we might not be seeing the last of such happenings. When it comes to the police, what happened to the hate mongers? You know, when we are talking about elections and politicking, there are two areas which should be a no-goes on. From the politician himself, what he says, what he utters at the podium, should be quite in terms of portray the leadership of that particular person. But what has happened in our political space, we've had leaders in this country who've gone to utter statements which outrightly is hate speech, which is well documented in our law that it is criminal. And I cannot remember, for as long as I've been around, who has been jailed of recently on hate speech, and yet those cases are there, including even serious action taken by CIC, this other commission, which was created specifically, basically created specifically to deal with the hate speech, especially from leaders and politicians. Nothing has happened. I think that is where we are getting it wrong, because sometimes violence can come as a result of the utterances from the leader, from that particular person. That area, it is quite wanting. Two, when it comes to the violence now, as the one which happened in Kondele, well, to me, as from where I sit as a politician, if ODM organized that violence against the DP, I don't have the fact. But if that was the case, to me, that was bad strategy. Because what it will simply mean is that they are so scared, they are looking at the DP as so big a threat in that area that he should not even sell his policies. To me, the end result of such a strategy is it ends up uplifting, it ends up actually making that the DP now coming out stronger in that area. And I don't think ODM is short of strategists in their area. So to me, that was a no strategy at all, if that is what they wanted to achieve. But on the other hand, again, and we said this as leaders, the youth, stop being misused. If that was the case, I don't think there was an old man throwing a stone. Old men can hardly lift a stone and throw. So again, this goes back to the youth. Can the youth take their position? And their position should be taking the political process in terms of leadership through the ballot, through the policies, through, and they're the most understanding. They're the ones who've gone to school. So at what point on time do you get that time now to throw a stone? Simply because probably you've been given 500 shillings. What do you do with 500 shillings? And you can tie this into the politics. You are talking of donations. Just say, if I'm to donate as a politician, and I'm also a politician, if I'm to donate 100,000 shillings into a gathering, I can tell you, and every politician does that, I would have done my mathematics to look at the numbers and versus what I'm giving them. They can clap when they're given 2 million. But in my case, and this one, you can go back, you can do your own math. The moment that money is distributed to those who actually should get, they hardly get over 1,000 bob per person. There are some areas where, after calculations, they were getting 600 and 500 and 400.
Okay.
So, and that is the politics of the day. So I think it is upon the electorate, it is upon the youth to say, we are not going to be misused. Let everybody sell his policies in any part of this country. At the end result, it is the ballot, and it should be peaceful. That will be my take on this matter.
Okay, interesting.
Jesse, on the issue of the youth, On the issue of the youth, Kasim is saying, now what is 500 shillings? What is this? This is what I'm saying. There's a huge disconnect from our leaders, between our leaders and the youth. I was listening to Kasim say, why would you take 500 shillings and do ABC? Kasim, you have to understand, the youth, which is the bracket between 18 years to 35 years old, are struggling. They are jobless. They have no source of income. When you say, are you so idle that you're just sitting around waiting to be given 500 shillings? Absolutely, yes. They don't have jobs. They don't have any kind of activities that they're doing. This is actually a boiling pot. And once you understand that, then you will understand that it's so easy for a politician or otherwise to just stand by the corner of a street and gather up to 200 youth because they're looking for employment. They're looking for casual jobs. That 500 shilling that Kasim thinks is very small, for a youth, it can go as low as 200 shillings. You stand by the corner and say, guys, I'm looking for 200 youth. I just want you guys to carry advertisement placards for the whole day. A youth will actually pick up that job because that is the height of desperation that we have. So we must address, first of all, the issue of the youth not being employed, the youth not having income generating activities, and the youth, which also caps all the way to 35 years old, simply being in a point of desperation that, yes, when you offer them 500 shillings to clean a hall or to walk around or even to throw those stones, for them, for that day, that is a source of income, and that's the result. That's where we should start from, Jesse. If we remove that, there are no youth at the corner of the street that you can call to give 200. How do you remove them? You have to keep them busy by creating employment. You have to keep them busy by actually pushing them to start enterprises and, having income generating activities, because that way, when you stand at the corner of any street and you say, Natafta vijana 200, what wako busy? So that is the issue. First of all, that's the disconnect that we have with our leaders, that they don't understand the dynamics and why you end up having youth throwing stones. The peace building that we need to have with the youth is, first of all, to engage them in economic empowerment so that they don't have time to be tempted to take the 200 shilling or the 500 shilling to throw stones.
Okay, fair point. And Kasim, I'll definitely give you a chance to reply, but due to time, and perhaps you can combine your thoughts even as we take a look at boiling points. And this time around, we want to feature what is happening in the public institutions, high schools across the country. And the big question has been whether they're learners or criminals, whether caning should be reintroduced in schools, because others hold the thought that it will bring back discipline. Others think that it is outdated. That's not the route we should use to instill discipline amongst these young ones. What's your take on that, and perhaps the reaction from the Ministry of Education?
Well, just one point on what Gloria said. While I do agree with her, basically, on the rate of employment and the desperation of the youth, I do not think throwing stones should be one of the enterprises that the youth can actually do to get, even if it means 100 bob. Way forward, on the issue of the unrest that we've seen in schools, it is as a result of so many things. One, where the parents cannot just sit pretty and not take a blame on the upbringing of this kid. Yes, we know we are in difficult times, but so is everybody else. Every country, basically, is not doing any better when it comes to issues on unemployment and the hardships and COVID. You can name all the ills, but ultimately, us as parents, I'm a parent myself, has a responsibility to instill discipline, first and foremost, on my kid before that kid goes to school. Two, we've had an education system which has tried to be a one-fit-all system, and I think that is where we are going wrong. I had a question. I had a question in Parliament 2 weeks ago about the CBC. The PS appeared before us yesterday to answer on the implementation of the CBC, the competence-based curriculum. To me, that is a very good curriculum. I understand. It cannot be that all those who do standard 8 will go into one classroom and do maths, physics, chemistry, and the other subjects and translate that way. There are so many young people now with different talents. They have been there, but right now there are even more with different talents. I think we are missing that opportunity. where that youth can right away discover his or her talent, be it in sport, be it in drama, be it in music, be it in painting, and excel and be taken wholesomely that this is a talent. Right now, it's like if one was to say, my kid was to say, oh, you know, Dad, I'm failing maths and chemistry, but I'm good in painting. I will still insist as a parent that no, you must do physics and chemistry now. You can do your painting later. So this puts in a lot of pressure in these youth.
Okay.
And of course, in the current system now, where we basically even don't have holidays, that is another problem. But all in all, I think it is upon the youth to know that this is their time. It is their time to utilize it on whatever bad situation they find themselves in. But this is their time. It's their time to take care of their future. And they have a bright future. I'm a very optimistic person. And if now, like the minister, the CS says, that, and I think there are no two ways about it, whatever they do is criminal. When you ban, that is criminal. That is destroying property. It should come with consequences, which is, again, bad for that particular youth.
Okay, Kasim,
so
just
I'm really appealing to the youth.
Just a yes or no, should corporal punishment be reintroduced?
I don't think that is a solution. Okay. No. I don't think that is a solution.
Okay, well noted. Let's cross over to Gloria. Your take on that. And even as we talk about that, it's proper to note that the Ministry of Education has released money for the development of classrooms across the country. I think 11,000 classrooms in order to facilitate the transition phase within these institutions. What's your take on the spate of unrest within the schools? Others say it's the pressure due to the term, but the Ministry of Education mentioned, and they gave statistics to support that it is nothing to do with the congested term. How do you look at this issue?
There are several factors, but first I want to put out a very controversial statement. Mm-hmm. You can outsource parenting, but at a fee. What I mean is this expectation that parents have for teachers to parent their kids, these expectations that mothers and fathers put on our teachers that it is your responsibility to discipline my child. Those expectations are legitimate, but at a fee. If your child is in a government school, and this is why I said it's controversial, you know that primary schools are free. Teachers are earning bare minimum. They have their own children. How is it that you as a parent, taking your child to a government school where it is free, are expecting that on top of the workload that that teacher in that school has, that you know you're not going to pay them extra, but you expect that they parent your child, that they discipline your child, that they instill ethos and all sorts of morals in your child for free? No. If you want to outsource parenting, work hard. Take your children to those private schools. We are not seeing private schools being burnt down. We are not seeing private schools, those students running around and saying we are on strike. Very rare. Because those parents that have outsourced their parental responsibilities, they have paid a premium fee to those teachers to now even come and say, hey, why are you not disciplining my child? Hey, why is my child having abusive language? You know, those expectations can be met, but you have to pay. So when you're in a government institution, which we know that we are really trying to ensure that primary education is free and even secondary education in the future is free, you as a parent should understand those teachers are already, or they have a workload that is crazy. So the expectation should end at the point where, as a teacher, all I have to do is impart knowledge to your child. So for a long time, parents have actually, and particularly this, the parents that you see who are even shouting at some of the principals when they were, you know, giving the press conference on why we have fires and whatever. Those parents are the problem in this society because they don't even take their responsibilities as parents seriously. Now, when it comes to what the other issue that I think is serious, you know, we've come from a pandemic, Jesse, and as much as Africans want to think that mental health and issues of social welfare, just the well-being of our child, you know, we don't pay that much attention to it. We've come from a pandemic. Most of these children have had to witness some really crazy things in their household when we were on lockdown. Most of these children have actually gone through abuse, serious abuse. Most of these children have had to move from what they knew was home to other kind of situations because their parents lost their job during the pandemic. So there's a lot more happening. And that is affecting the children psychologically. That is affecting the children's mental health.
All right.
And when you lift up that child and now take them to school and tell them you have no holidays, and this is thanks to Magoha. You know, I really think that guy should be fired. You have no holidays. You have no what. Those are human beings. So the pushback will be this immense. So you have to think about it holistically from a parenting point of view, but also from the fact that we have come from a pandemic which affected these children like crazy.
Gloria, let me ask you this, and just briefly, be as brief as possible. I'm looking at a newsletter from Kakamega High School, 9,823 Kenya shillings by each student as they go back to school. We recently saw Buruburu girls, 1,500 in terms of the return fee. Do you think these costs are highly exploitative, or it's simply the cost of indiscipline in terms of the money being requested by these institutions in order to build the destroyed facilities? What's your take on that?
It is the cost of indiscipline. They're not exploitative. Okay. It's the cost of indiscipline. And it's unfortunate that some of those students who are even victims of those fires are now being, you are a victim and then now you are being punished for actually being a victim. But, that's again an issue of leadership up from the cabinet secretary, Magoha. For him, his reactions and how he has been, reacting to the issues that the unrest.
Okay.
I tend to disagree with a lot of the things. I tend to disagree with someone saying, if you tell a 7-year-old Jesse or a 10-year-old, even a 12-year-old, you tell them, by the way, nikikupata tena unacheza huko, I'll take you to jail. Do you really think they comprehend as a child? Do you think they comprehend with that kind of statements? We need to understand these are children.
All right.
That's why we even have juvenile prisons and juvenile courts and it's not, you can't treat a child, a minor, as an adult.
All right, Gloria. Okay, well noted. Thanks for being brief on that. So maybe less high-handedness from the ministry. Kasim, as you give us your closing remarks, perhaps let's just touch on what's happening with One Kenyan Alliance and the talk in town, especially after Kalonzo Musyoka's welcome to talk to Deputy President William Ruto, and then later on we had he withdrew that statement. Well, what exactly is happening in One Kenyan Alliance? Because right now Ruto is in the backyard of Mudavadi, or was in the backyard of Mudavadi. Raila is heading to Kambani, that's the backyard of Kalonzo Musyoka. Are they trying to negate the influence of One Kenya Alliance? Your final take, sir.
One Kenya is intact. One Kenya is stronger. This is One Kenya again. Any leader, as I initially said, should be able to move to any part of this country and sell his or her policies. Unfortunately, it's only men now who are gunning for the president. So all of them, they're selling their policies. Us, we should we mapped out our program, how we are going to traverse the whole of this country. We'll be in Kisumu, we'll be in Rift Valley, we'll be in Central, we'll be Coast, we'll be, and to me, there's nothing far about. I think that is the beauty of this country, and hopefully that is the way it should be, that you can go and sell your policies into any part of this country without being felt that you are undermining somebody. Sometimes that is the problem with us Kenyans, that if, for instance, somebody was to come to my constituency and have a meeting there and talk to the people, then I go out and say, why did you come to my constituency without informing me? I think that is barbaric and forward. For as long as you have the means and ways of coming to my constituency, to my county, for as long as I have the ways and means of going to